We all know that real estate has created more millionaires than any other industry on the planet. We also know that it has created a lot of heartache due to mismanagement, overborrowing, and just simple life events that happen to all of us. Welcome to the Cash Flow Pro podcast. My name is Casey Brown, and I am your fearless leader. And although we might be bourbon sipping and at times foul-mouthed Southerners, we will always do our best to be honest, straightforward, and due diligent with all of the information we pass along to you. Welcome to the show. Hey there, and welcome to Cash Flow Pro podcast and channel. We want to thank you for joining us today. And today we are with Erik Cabral, right? He's with On Air Brands, and he's going to talk with us a little bit today about branding and personal branding. I think is really his kind of forte, or at least that's what we discussed a little bit ago. And he is going to dive in, and then also as kind of a side note, he's going to talk about his real estate investing and investing adventures that he's been on, and what made him want to leave corporate America. So, Erik, welcome. How are you today?
I'm fantastic. Thanks for having me, Casey.
Oh yeah, sure. We're always glad to have we dive so deep into syndication and people win their syndication stories and things like that, that sometimes every once in a while it's cool to have somebody that's got a little different overall maybe profession, but then still understands and has still invested in real estate. So anyway, all right, well, tell us a little bit about yourself and what got you going. I think a main point of the listeners that I like to point out is anytime somebody has left corporate America, the 9 to 5, the cashing the same paycheck every week lifestyle, that's what I'm after. That's what I like to dive into. But man, you take it away. It's yours to tell your story to tell.
Yeah, thank you for that, and I appreciate you and your audience and your time. It's a long journey, man. Like to get to the point where you can adopt the mindset where you're like, okay, let me break free from the rat race. Let me figure out how I can control my life. Because when you're in corporate America, and I did it for over 20 years, it was fine, right? It was the way I was programmed from a very young age to get a good job. Well, first get an education, go to college, get a job. That's the goal of even why do you go to college, so that my resume and I can get which all worked. It all worked, Casey. They were right, but nobody ever talks about fulfillment. No one ever talks about your passions. No one ever talks about your happiness. They just want you to get a nice job so that you can support a family eventually, and just live out your days till you're in your 60s and you collect that gold watch. Like there you go, and maybe some steak knives if you're lucky. Yeah, bro, I was miserable. I hit the glass ceiling, and I wasn't noticing any change in my salary. I got to the toppest of the top, as a creative director. That is the goal in graphic design. I was running the show within a creative studio for a Fortune 100. And I was like, man, how does it get better than this unless I become partner in this? But I don't think this gigantic corporation, this global corporation, is going to make me, I don't even know like the CEOs, so let alone be a partner. So I was just trying to figure out what was next. And thankfully, the company decided to shut down what we were building. Like I came in and helped to create a $500,000 internal agency to a $2.5 million in less than a year. And I was like, man, I thought I did it all right, but it didn't matter because as we were talking earlier, they wanted to outsource everything that we were doing creatively to India, to Ireland, to all sorts of places where they can save a buck and it looks good on paper. So that was what lit the fire under me. I was like, maybe this is a sign. I am not happy. I'm looking in the mirror. I'm miserable. I'm heavy. I just don't feel like I have a purpose. So that's when I was like, man, I need to figure this out.
And that's killer, dude. And there's so many people that are just treading water and again, in college, I've got so many, I'm a college graduate myself, and I say that in one way of college was fun, college was great, I met a lot of people, but at the end of the day, I'm like, what a sham job, because for one, they don't don't teach you anything about, like, let's just even discuss personal finance kind of stuff. They're not like, hey man, this is how you build a business. They're like, this is what, I took a course in management. Management was one of my graduate level courses that I took. And I was like, all right, so they're teaching me how to manage, but they've never said anything about, how to get to the management spot. And then when you step in there and you're like, all right, you said fulfillment, and that's a word I think that so many people, especially in today's time, fulfillment it's like, dude, we get one shot at this. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this is a one shot deal. Life is a one shot deal, and when it ends, it's over. And so when you're like, and you can either get there, we all get to the same spot, but you're either fulfilled while you're getting there, or you're just, I always see that cartoon, that guy's just carrying his briefcase in one hand and a jacket in the other, and he's just somber and he's about to fall. Like you said, you use the word heavy. So anyway, but yeah, man, that's a killer story, because there's a lot of people in that boat. There's a lot of people that can relate to that. So
yeah, it's really about just getting the courage, and what gives us courage is knowledge, right?
Yep.
Just even being aware that you're in that state is a hurdle. Yep. Most people just live through it and get up every day and they're like, they don't think I'm unhappy. They just go smack somebody or put their fist through a wall, and they don't realize, like, that's not happiness. Like, you are going to eventually end up in the grave younger than, come on, there's something better here, and there's a way, and there's a path for us. We just have to figure it out. And it really wasn't, and you've heard this a billion times, I'm sure, in your show, I took the purple pill. And once I got the Kiyosaki book in my hands, I was like, holy, can I swear on this thing? Holy S. I'm like, man, this is changing my mindset. This is changing my world. It's the zeros and ones in the matrix. I saw code and I was like, holy crap. And as I was driving to my now, defunct job that I was supposed to lay off all my staff and me be the last one out the door, like Ted Danson in Cheers. That's an old callback for anybody who's old enough to understand. But yeah, I'm driving, dude, and I'm punching the steering wheel, and I was just out of anger and frustration, but most of all, inspiration to make a change in my life and to try something new and to explore. And when I got that whole cash flow quadrant in my head, I'm like, yes, I need to live in these two quadrants and not those two quadrants.
And it's such a life changing, and it's like you feel like you've been lied to, but then you're like, damn, yes, I can do it. Let's go.
Yeah. Now I know, though. Now I know.
Yeah. But now I know. And and I'll tell you, one of the biggest things for myself, which again was getting over being pissed off about what I had been through to get to that point. And it's like, and once I was like, you know what? Forget it. Let's go.
Yeah.
And it's like it's earth shattering, really, for, it makes you feel good. So, yeah, man, that's that punch in the steering wheel and being so pissed off at corporate that you just are almost thrust into the way of saying, I want this other lifestyle. And this is what I want.
Yeah, brother. And it wasn't just corporate. It was the educational system. Like, I was so angry that they never talked about finances. They never taught us anything about money. They only taught us how to be a worker bee. They only taught us to be a cog in the machine, not how to be the machine, not how to be the bank, not how to save, not just save for saving's sake, but actually saving and freaking investing it, like putting it in a place where it's going to make you money. You get me fired up, man, because I'm just like, I'm reliving like those stages of grief that you and I both experienced when you get that realization that, like, I've been lied to from day one. And I'm like, I'm not doing this with my kids. My kids are going to see an entrepreneur and a business owner working hard and hustling and figuring things out. And at the same time, I'm going to teach them about money and investing and having your money work for you. And all the things that you and I know, and hopefully your audience knows.
Yeah, it's and I had a guy one time. Matter of fact, he's we're about an hour outside of Nashville, and he's a songwriter that's from here. And one day I was actually talking to his dad. We're all good friends, and I said, why doesn't he like want to, because it's really becoming a songwriter is one thing, and then it seemed like the bridge from songwriter to superstar is considerably closer, certainly than what I could ever imagine. And I was like, well, why doesn't he? Because he can sing, he can play, he can write, he can do everything. And I said to his dad, I said, why doesn't he jump in and like go do some concerts and really, really build his brand or whatever? And he said, as a songwriter, he gets what's called mailbox money. He writes the song, that song pays for itself infinitely. A penny here, a penny there, as it rolls on and rolls forward. And I thought that term mailbox money stuck with me, and that's been 15 years ago. And I just was like, mailbox money. How do you do? And then all of a sudden, as I started piecing these things together, and of course that being one extreme example of how mailbox money works, but then the investment in itself, reinvesting it in itself, anyway, you could just go on and on and on. It's like, I'm like you, it just gets you fired up and ready to just wring somebody's neck for wasting all that time.
Time and money.
But mailbox money, man, mailbox money is just a wonderful idea and thought. So what got you, of course, we talked about you being a personal brand specialist. And I think everybody out there needs to have a branding specialist for one degree or another. If you are in a business that has a public facing, side, you definitely need a branding specialist, because brand is so important that people just go and they're like, oh, I went on Fiverr and I got a brand and he only charged me $18. Well, you know what? Let's talk about, because a brand is so much more than just the black and white on a piece of paper that is a logo. A brand has power. A brand brings so much to the table. So tell us a little bit about what you got going on there, how you got into to that particular space as far as like building a personal brand and so on.
Yeah. I mean, I was always fascinated with logo marks and branding. And then eventually, as I got more sophisticated, in the corporate America, and started being on teams and eventually leading teams to develop marks and brands for large corporations, there was a certain sort of formula that we knew how to extract the information needed from these corporate heads to identify what represents this company to its fullest through this mark and this word and through the slogan and tagline, whatever it was. So I got really good at that, right, in corporate. But it doesn't necessarily apply when I became a solopreneur at the time, because what I was doing was I was trying to create my legacy wealth. I left corporate. I said, I'm retired from creative. I'm going to go invest in real estate. I'm going to do what Trump's doing. I'm going to do what everybody, should be doing, and I just got all my education and ate it all up. And then within 8 months, I got my first multifamily. And then I surrounded myself with real estate investors and syndicators and people who raise capital and all the people, right? Basically anyone from top to bottom in bigger pockets became my friend, and some of them close personal friends. And I was like, I love this community. And I was like, how can I help them? But the thing is, everybody was raising money or flipping homes or wholesaling or syndicating. I was like, I don't know if this is my thing. I don't feel super passionate about it. I'm not even great with my own money, let alone, other people's money. So it was a lot of responsibility. But what I was good at, Casey, was breaking down brands and what it takes to develop a really powerful, strong brand for you. And I did it for myself, and then other people recognized it, especially when you go to these local RIAs, everybody's, if they have a business card, it looks terrible. It looks generic. I mean, how many homes am I going to see with 3 homes and maybe, and red and black, or blue and gray? It's all the same stuff, but everyone saw my thing. I'm like, who did this? And I'm like, me. I'm like, what? Can you do that for me? And then me became we. And I was like, oh man, I got to hire people. And it became a branding marketing agency. But then eventually I started a podcast, and people were like, I love that. Who's doing your podcast? Me. And I'm like, can you do that for me? And then now that's what we do, man. It's always like I do whatever the market asks for. And now it's starting to evolve, like you said, into branding and doing personal brands for people, because our clients, we have many, many podcast clients, don't have personal brands, and they don't understand how to create and why they even need one. So now I'm like,
Yep.
okay, now I need to help more people this way.
That's right. Well, man, that's awesome. That's a great story. Now, um, the personal brand, yeah, there's, like I said, I joke about the guy that pays $18 and gets a logo off Fiverr, and then all of a sudden they're in business, and now they're, but when you start peeling the onion back of the psychology that's involved with the decisions everyday people make about where they eat, where they're going to stay at, if they get a hotel, where they're going to rent a car from, where they're going to this, where they're going to that, it becomes ingrained. And so again, that psychological connection that you've got to figure out as a branding specialist, it's kind of like writing copy. Okay, writing copy is probably, it's like riding an elevator up and down all day every day and never walking out on the floor. For me, it's just not something that I am good at. It's not something I enjoy. It's like you with the other stuff. Writing copy is, in my opinion, the worst job. So, and when I say writing copy, for the listeners out there that may not understand, what copy is of course, how somebody connects to, say, a picture, or how somebody connects to, the ad copy. You have to. And so, but when you start looking at the psychological aspects of saying, okay, hey, I was like, this lady wanted $1,500 to write 8 emails, and I was like, at first I was like, you have lost your mind. That is so outside of that is so outside of my budget. It's unbelievable, because I can do it in like 10 minutes, blah, blah, blah. And then, but when she finally started telling me, she's like, listen, this is not just me sitting down and typing emails. This is me getting into your customer's head and saying, what makes his head, what in his head ticks when I say the words real estate syndication? What is that? What type of reaction? And I got to listening and thinking and talking about what these reactions were, and boom, then you showed up. And I'm like, dude, this is big stuff. I mean, this is why the price of, nobody sees their bottle of Coke or whatever increasing in price, because Coke had to spend so much more defining their audience.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason why Coca-Cola, Nike, the biggest brands you ever know, they don't go to Fiverr to create logos and brands for themselves, right? They go to the experts. And
That's right.
What we try to do in any form or fashion as business owners is, shouldn't we be hiring people that know what they're doing and what they're talking about and why they do it? Yep. Like, that's where we were talking before the mics turned on, that a lot of what we do became commoditized through Fiverr and all these other platforms. And what's happened is, these people aren't formally trained. They're not in, like you said, like the psychology of it and like why people buy, or even invested in you and why you do things, what your mission is. We've gotten to the level where, we only work with mission-driven entrepreneurs because, like, those folks that are stepping into a local RIA, and they're like, yeah, someday maybe I'll buy some real estate, or I'll flip a house, and those were the people that I was like, I can't serve you anymore, because you don't have clarity. Yeah. You don't know what you're trying to do in the world. You don't even know what you're doing at home with your own life and family. Yeah. So it's like working with people who have a mission, have a purpose, and have clarity in what they're trying to do are the easiest people to work with, because they understand the value in what a brand or body copy or in a newsletter or marketing or sales, all the necessary components to create a successful business. You have to hire experts at some point if you want to level up and have longevity in this game, because this is a tough world, man. Dog eat dog, man. This chew you up, spit you out. So you got to stand out from the crowd.
Yeah, and you've got to stand out from the crowd in a way that almost forces your avatar or your ideal client to take action, and at some point. But the other element to this that people that I didn't understand for a long time, I mean a long time, is you can't just, for instance, selling real estate, like being a real estate broker or whatever, and you can't just, I see so many of these people that just come into the real estate business, and they walk up to somebody and they tap them on the shoulder and say, hey, you want to sell your house? They're like, no. And they're like, You want to buy a house? Instead of saying, hey, here's a catalog. Check this out. In case you ever decide you want to do something, let me know. And you have to start, that process starts by telling 1,000 people what I just said. Hey, here's a catalog. Let me know if I can ever be of any assistance. You have to tell 1,000 people that. Okay, 1,000 people, you get 10 that contact you in the next 2 months and say, hey, I remember me from so and so, and that's the part of all of this that I keep going back to is the psychology of how you step into somebody's world. And like I said, so many of these people are like doing exactly what I wanted to do, was just be like, I wanted to bypass all of these steps in the funnel and just go right to that guy and say, hey, you want to buy a house? And and he's looking at me like, really? What? I'm just here to get peanut butter, dude. Whatever. And so at the same time, when you back into that and you look at this and you look at it from a brand standpoint.
Hi, this is Casey Brown, host of the Cash Flow Pro podcast and YouTube channel. Have you been thinking about investing in real estate but just don't know where to begin? I'd like to help by inviting you to check out our website at www.3000capital.com. There you will find an array of material that will help you learn all about real estate syndication. And while you're there, be sure to check out our free video series download titled 5 Must-Know Keys to Success in Passive Real Estate Investing. I'd also like to personally thank you for making Cash Flow Pro part of your day. Now, back to the show.
Man, we spent a lot of time on brand here. I want to shift this, and I want to get to your real estate experience. I want to find out what took you down the path of even starting to being a real estate investor. And was it LP or GP on the passive side? What was the step into that?
I was very active. GP, all everything you mentioned. So I mainly did it because I needed some catalyst, something to inspire me to do something different than what I was doing for over 20 years.
Sure.
And that was creating legacy wealth. And when I dove in, I met so many wonderful people, people that like I call brothers. They were so willing to help. And I didn't know what I needed. It was like in my wholesaling. I was in learn mode, and I was like, let me just absorb as much knowledge and then figure out what I want to do, and then find the people that are doing what I want to do and just shadow them and help them in any way possible. So that's what I did, like went around, like you said, I knocked on doors or, sent out yellow letters and sat down with motivated sellers. And I realized what I wasn't so great at was selling to people that were in dire need. Like they were desperate and they needed to get out of that situation. And I'll tell you why I wasn't good at it is because I'm a good listener, like you are. I've listened to your show. You're really good. And I was like, man, I'm sitting down with sellers for 3 hours because my heart is pouring out and into their whole story. And then I eventually, Casey, wouldn't get the house. And it wasn't like I was sad that I didn't get the house. I was sad for that person. I was like, man, I'm too emotionally involved. That's when I found podcasting. And in that whole process, I got involved, as a GP in the second oldest winery called Renault. That's a legacy play. There's a golf course, there's a full golf course, there's a 50-room hotel. It's just a beautiful, beautiful property here in New Jersey. Yes. Yeah. So when I got there, it started to open doors because I was meeting more higher level people. Created a podcast, strictly around real estate and investing. And then it just created more opportunities. And eventually I found my tribe, and my mastermind, GoBundance. And then that's when I was like, this just changed everything. It's just 10x my life. So, that's the real estate stuff, man.
Man, spot on. And then so many times on this show, I come in and I'm like, listen, I've said this 1,000 times, and I know my listeners sometimes. You've got to be getting tired of hearing it. But if you are the smartest person in the room, you are in the wrong room. Period. End of story. That is the thread of life. I mean, Richard Branson, I heard that for the very first time. I mean, I remember when he said it, or where I read it that he said it somewhere. But I thought, man, that's right, because once you start, like you said, you found your mentor, and I don't care if you want to be if you want to be a wine tasting guru, you want to be the best wine tasting guru there's on the planet, you have to find people that are there so that you can talk to them, much like yourself, like you said, and say, hey, how did you get to be this wine tasting, whatever? And so, and then like you said, when you step into the real estate game and people were just nice and accepting and understanding, because, and in general, we all want the same thing, but at the same time, we also want that legacy that says, hey man, I helped Erik out here, or I helped whoever out, or you helped me out, and then you build that network, and your network is your net worth, and so it's all tied together, every bit of it.
Yeah.
So
some of the many things that I realized, Casey, was your net worth and the money that you make is directly tied to the amount of people that you help, the amount of people that you serve.
Absolutely.
So the more people you serve, the more money you will make. And that's sort of there's all these unlocks that people don't realize, especially when you're in corporate America, because no one talks like this. But it's like the money is the byproduct of creating value, having value within yourself. Like you stepping into the room and being able to charge $200, $300. I pay my mentor, one of my mentors, $1,500 an hour. Why? Yep. Because he has so much value, because that hour will make me millions. So to get to the point where you have all this value locked in here that you just have a conversation with. How many times, Casey, have you been in an event and you're talking to someone and you see their jaw drop open? You just changed their world. You just right,
one little
mic drop. That came easy to you. Why? Because experience, surrounding yourself with smarter people, all these things. To another person who's climbing up the ladder, they don't realize you're lifting a hand up, to grab to your mentors who are lifting you up, and then you're also putting a hand down to help someone else. But there's always value, no matter what stage in life. You have value to someone, and you can help someone. And the more people you help, the more money you'll make.
Yeah, and you have to have that. You have to also carry that element of thirst for knowledge. Like the fact of the matter is that I enjoy going into a room, a hypothetical room, and say, just to sit and listen, and just listen to stories and how things came about. And one of I'll tell you this, again, we're right up here close to Nashville. So one time about 3 or 4 years ago, I got online. I didn't intend to end up buying tickets to I can't remember what the blue. It was the place where Garth Brooks got his start. It was a little teeny tiny hole in the wall bar in Nashville, and I ended up getting tickets to Garth Brooks. It was in a little personal setting. There was like 50 people, and it was ridiculously cool. But to sit and listen to his stories and how these different songs that we all grew up listening to, how they came about and what path they took to get to a production standpoint. And I was just like, I was literally started piecing that together and saying, man, this guy is just like us. I mean, here's this superstar who's greater than, who carries a weight of the world because of how he performs and the energy he provides to the people around him. But hearing him talk about that in such a manner, like we were just all chilling, like, you know what I'm saying? Like we were just buddies chilling for 4 hours that night. And that story relating type stuff was huge. You could just see the other people that were wanting to be famous that were there. This was a really intimate event again. And so he was sharing with those people how these things came about and real life experiences and how they translated into him then turning them into music. Just fabulous. I mean, absolutely a fabulous, just exactly what you're saying. I mean, but no, man, listen, let's kind of move on here. I know that's a big story.
I want to highlight two things you said. I'm going to flip it like this is my show. But two things that you said, there's two things that are really important that you just pointed out, Casey, for anyone who missed it, is that, so Garth Brooks, let's take him for example. He can literally play to tens of thousands of people in a stadium. Tens of thousands, right? And he has hundreds of thousands, no, millions of fans, millions of fans across the world, right?
Yep.
He is the perfect example, like you said, of he makes who knows how much money. It doesn't even matter to him at this point. That's the amount of people he's serving. That's a direct correlation, an example, perfect example that you put, Casey. But I also want to highlight how powerful this medium is, podcasting. And I'm having less and less conversations of trying to convince people to everyone's convinced they need a podcast, but anyone who's still doubting or anyone who's still questioning and trying to figure out if they need a podcast, Garth Brooks, another example. Not saying that he has a podcast, but that exact experience that Casey was talking about and why we grew up to love Bon Jovi, whoever, Kanye West, whoever it is you love and you feel a connection towards, and these are bookmarks within your life's path. Like in high school, I listened to some certain music and I'm like, I'm back in high school. This is time travel because it's so cool, right? Yep. Because you had earbuds, you had headphones, and you had a close and personal, intimate relationship with that artist.
Yep. Now, and they were singing about something you were able to relate to.
Exactly. Podcasting. Enter podcasting. You're in their earbuds. You're in their heads. You're talking to them one-on-one. And if there's any bit of advice of anyone who started podcasting that's listening to this, speak to one person. Don't speak to the whole crowd. Don't say y'all and people and Instagram. And you're talking to one person. Connect to that one person, because once you start doing that, that's when the magic happens.
Well, and again, you get back to the commonalities of people in general. If you have a problem, this pen just doesn't work right. There's a chance that 1,000 other people right behind you are looking for an answer to that same problem. And so the common thread is, hey, help this guy. Then this guy calls the next guy and says, hey, Casey or Erik or whoever showed me how to fix this problem. So then that guy comes to you and says, hey man, John showed me that you knew how to fix it. And it just grows and grows and grows. As long as you're solving problems and just leading with value and not expecting. So many of the people in the branding world expect that. How many people just run in and they're like, oh yeah, $100, we can do that. Or I charge $250 for that or whatever. And they're like, and then what do you get?
Yeah.
You get, there's a difference between a logo and a brand, and I don't want to keep going back to and beating on Fiverr, because I've used some things on Fiverr for some video stuff and so on and so forth. But at the same time, man, I just, doing what you do really gives a lot of, especially coming from where you came from. That really gives, I hope it gives a lot of hope to people that want to climb out of you could be talking to somebody that's making $1 million a year and that $1 million a year at his corporate job, and he's just terribly pissed off every day. He gets out of bed. He doesn't enjoy time with his kids because so-and-so is going to call and do this or that or whatever. And it's just like, man, come on.
Yeah.
Get up, people. Let's do something. So anyway, well, Erik, listen, we're kind of running out of time here. I want you to leave the listeners with a way to get a hold of you, especially somebody that wants to reach out that's like, hey, man, I really want to get my brand going. I want to get started. Maybe some resources that you might be able to offer. I'm going to leave that and let you tell people how to get a hold of you and what you offer.
Yeah, I will give my direct email. And
awesome.
I will try to respond as quickly. I get inundated at this point, so I'm blessed. But Erik, Erik, at onairbrands.com. Just hit me up if you're curious about podcasting, personal branding, all that good stuff. Or you can also check out what we do at onairbrands.com. And all our socials are the same. So, yeah, easy to find.
Cool, man. Hey, I want to highlight real quick, just before we jump off here, he did, folks, Erik. Okay, I want to make sure, because we don't want to misspell or miss anything.
.co.
Give him .co.
That's it.
Somebody else.
Yeah.
Bunch.
ErikCabral.co.
Oh man.
Yeah. .co.
I tell you, oh man, that's a great story.
It is. You're not the first.
That's right. Well, listen, but Erik at onairbrands.com, and check him out, y'all. He's definitely there to help. And Erik, man, we really appreciate you being on the show today. I know we didn't get into a ton of capital raising or a ton of real estate management stuff, but it's just kind of refreshing to know and to talk to the people that are involved in other aspects, kind of outside of just the money talk. You know what I mean? So thanks, man. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Casey.
Yes, sir. Hope everybody has a good day, and thanks for listening to Cashflow Pro. Have a good one.
Cashflow Pro is hosted by Casey Brown, founder and CEO of 3000 Capital, a commercial real estate investment firm committed to providing its investors with ongoing cash flow and helping them build long-term wealth. If you enjoyed today's podcast, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you'll be notified about all our future episodes. You can find more information about us and our investment philosophy by clicking the link in the show notes below. Thanks for listening.